We also have the LBB here to provide additional information if necessary, and I'm sure it's going to be necessary. So I'm going to invite Ursula and Sarah to come forward, and I'd like to have them walk through both the Article 9 rider related to ESF and the contract savings rider, which contains a few changes that is related to the conversation that this committee had the last time we met. So, welcome.
Sarah Keaton, Legislative Budget Board. I'll be walking through the motion. The first page looks like this. At the top it says House Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 1. The first required action under this motion is in Article 9, deleting the contingency for House Bill 2. The second required action is adding the rider and appropriations to Article 9 from the Economic Stabilization Fund. And a table is on the next 4 pages of this rider motion, and these are appropriations for 18-19 from the Economic Stabilization Fund that are now included in House Bill 1 in lieu of being included in House Bill 2. So that continues on page 2, 3, 4 of the document. On page 5, the 5th page of the motion, this is all still part of the Article 9 rider. Sections 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all riders that relate to those appropriations that were included in Articles 1 through 8 in the introduced version of the bill, but since the appropriations are now made in Article 9, those riders have all been moved with the appropriations that they relate to this Article 9 provision. So there's no substantive change to the meaning of those riders. It's just moving them from 1 through 8 to Article 9. Items 7 and 8 in this rider are additional appropriations from the Economic Stabilization Fund, and item 8 also includes a reduction to general revenue for TRB bond debt service. Item 9 in the Article 9 rider is an appropriation from State Highway Fund and interagency contracts for the CAPS program. And item 10 is a statement that all the appropriations in this section are subject to requirements and limitations contained in the bill pattern for the affected agencies. The third required action in this motion is technical and conforming changes in Articles 1 through 8 to align with this Article 9 provision. So this is removing riders and FTEs and capital budget authority from Articles 1 through 8, since now those are all included in Article 9. On the last page of the motion, required action number 4 is some changes to the contract cost containment rider. This rider in Article 9 now excludes all agencies in Article 3 other than the Texas Education Agency and the Higher Education Coordinating Board. And the rider is an informational listing. And item number 5, under the required actions, is to include the appropriation reductions pursuant to the contract cost containment and special provisions for Articles 1 through 8. And the last required action under this motion is the technical and conforming changes to full-time equivalents, capital budget authority, riders, funding, and performance measures pursuant to the decision documents that you all adopted at your previous meetings.
So, members, this is the action that we all communicated and talked about in terms of moving what we originally had placed in HB 2, funded by ESF, that would obviously be applied to the 2018-19 budget. And so when we talk about simply lifting the ESF in HB 2 and putting in an HB 1, you can see it's not such an easy task, and thus the reason that we have had to have some time in order to get this going forward. Obviously, we needed to and chose to wait for the Senate budget to come over and then do the formal action to actually substitute that out. But this is the action that we took after a lot of conversation with many of you on this dais, but more so with the other 123 members that aren't part of the appropriations process per se, at least at this level. And there was a very clear concern that the optics around the ESF funding 18-19 budget items was not what they really wanted to see. This was a significant number of folks that aren't directly plugged into the appropriations process, and that it would be a more palatable way to, use the CSF money if it was in HB1. We heard that. I think we as a committee said that was a way that we certainly were comfortable with. I think on the committee, everybody, frankly, would have been comfortable with it either way, and that's certainly the feedback I got. But that, as we said, there's 123 more members out there that we need to be respectful of, and we need to honor and respect their input. And this is where this has taken us. It's not an easy lift for the LBB to do this, but they have done it. Not, I think, with a smile on their face most of the time. But they did it. And I commend them for that. Appreciate that, Sarah. Thank you for the very detailed explanation. And I think before we go, do you want to go ahead and speak to the contract savings rider at this point, and then we can open it for question after that?
Sure. So the amendments that were made to the contract cost containment rider in this version is just deleting all of the agencies and institutions of higher education in Article 3, other than Texas Education Agency and the Higher Education Coordinating Board, and the targeted savings for Article 3 was lowered by the amount for those other agencies.
And just to be clear, the School for the Blind, Deaf is also excluded from that. Is that correct?